for reintroducing Buddhism back into Tibet. So first of all, it was introduced into Tibet by Padmasambhava, and then a king came along who was part of the Bun religion, and they was anti-Buddhist, and they purged all the Buddhist teachings. So then Atisha came later on and brought it back again. So he was invited by Jangchub U. So Jangchub U was a big teacher in Western Tibet, and he invited Atisha to come. So Atisha came for 2 years, and he reintroduced Buddhism back into Tibet. And he also wrote Lamp for the Path, which is the original teachings of Lam Rim. And everything, all the other Lam Rim instructions all came from this Atisha's Lamp for the Path, which he wrote because he saw when he got to Tibet that they were all over the place. Some were following Sutra, some were doing Tantra, and they were getting it all mixed up with all other religions. So he wrote this Lam Rim practice. And then after 2 years, he wanted to go back home to India. So then this teacher, Jangchub U, asked him to give final advice. And he said, well, I've already told you everything. There's nothing more to say. But he said to him, please leave us some final words. So he left these words from his heart. For me, this is a real nice teaching, and particularly for lay people. It doesn't go into, you have to realize emptiness. It's really how to just live your life practically and in a way that you're not going to cause suffering to other people or yourself. So I think, it's a wonderful practice to follow, just to try to do each of these steps and try to change your life and become the best possible person you can. So this is what this teaching is all about. So the first two I'm going to read together because they're on about spiritual guides. So the first one is, friends, until you attain an awakened mind, the spiritual teacher is indispensable. Therefore, rely upon a spiritual guide. And the second one says, until you realize ultimate truth, listening is indispensable. Therefore, listen to the instructions of a spiritual guide. So what he's saying is that we can't do this alone. We need help. So, of course, in them days, they didn't have YouTube and all these podcasts and that, which are great to help us. But really, if we want to go deeply into the path, if we want to reduce our suffering, then we really need somebody to guide us, a spiritual guide. So I've read here, spiritual guide. I think I must have changed that. I'm sure it probably said guru. So we are Western people. So we don't have the same culture as here in the East about guru. But what I would say to you is that respect your teachers, and the best way to respect your teachers is to follow their teaching, is to do, try to implement what they're teaching you. Because if you can do that, then there is no higher form of respect than, doing what the teacher is suggesting you to do. What I would say to you is don't put the teacher up here. Because if you put the teacher up there, then what do? You have to look up to them. And what do? They're looking down to you. This is not what Buddhism is about. Buddhism is about equanimity, about everybody being equal. Remember, we all have Buddha nature. So any one of us can become a Buddha if we put in the effort, if we put in the practice. So we must remember that. So respect your teachers and try to listen carefully to what they say and think about it. And if you have any doubts, ask questions. But don't be sycophantic about, the guru, because, that's not going to get you anywhere, because already then you're putting them higher than you. So it's really difficult to have a great working relationship with your teacher if you're treating him like a god. So respect the teacher, of course, and do that by doing his teachings, putting his teachings into part of your life. So listen carefully, ask questions, and then follow the instructions of the teacher. So does anybody want to ask anything about that? That's pretty clear, yeah? Any questions? Okay. So since you cannot become a Buddha merely by understanding Dharma, practice earnestly with understanding. So we have this Buddha nature, but we can't get in touch with this Buddha nature by reading books or by, being able to talk lovely about the Dharma. If you haven't put the Dharma into practice, if you haven't, put in a lot of effort and really try to understand the Dharma, it's very, very difficult for you to, reach a certain level. So I'm not saying that any of us can reach Buddhahood, but what we can do is reduce our suffering. And by reducing our suffering, and here the suffering I'm talking about is emotional and psychological suffering. There are other things we can do for physical suffering, exercise, eat well. But here I'm talking about emotional and psychological suffering. That's what Buddhism is all about. It's about getting to know ourselves. It's about trying to understand, who am I? What are the concepts I carry around with me? What are these concepts that are outdated? What biases do I have? So by looking at those things, by working on those things and understanding what Buddha was talking about and putting those into practice, this is how we're going to reduce our suffering. And of course, some people call it liberation or freedom, and it is liberation or freedom from this emotional and psychological suffering. So we can't become a Buddha. So set your goals realistically. I've asked many people before when they've come to me, they want to learn from me, and I say, what do you want to get out of it? And they say, like, I want to be enlightened. And I said, what does that mean? What do you mean by enlightenment? Of course, nobody really knows what enlightenment means. And it's such a way off and vast goal. Don't set yourself goals that are like that. Set yourself a goal that you can work towards, achieve. So we can work towards reducing our suffering. So this is a goal that we can do. And by reducing our suffering, of course, we reduce the suffering of other people around us. So it's not a selfish thing. It's not just about me, me, me. It's about other people as well. But first, we have to start with ourselves. So this is an argument that many people put to me about Buddhism and meditation is selfish. But it isn't, because, if people come to me and ask me to help them with anxiety, and I have anxiety, how can I help them? I can only help people if I've done the work myself. So we start with ourselves, but of course, obviously, we want bodhicitta, we want to have compassion for all beings. So understanding the Dharma and Buddha's teachings is a real important key. And don't just understand it by listening to podcasts. And don't just listen to one teacher as well. There are many good teachers out there that can teach you so many different things. I've had so many good Tibetan Buddhist masters that taught me certain things, and they were my teacher for that. But I don't look upon one as my overall teacher, because there's several things to learn and we have several teachers. So are there any questions on that? Have you already fallen asleep? Okay, so then moving on. So avoid places that disturb your mind and always remain where your virtues increase. Now, it's funny, this one. Today I had a very, very long email from a guy in America who's so disturbed. His mind is so disturbed because of this Trump and Biden thing and 4 years of going through Trump. He's lost so many friends and he's trying to hang on to friends, but they're disturbing his mind when he goes to these places. And he was asking me, shall I keep going to these places and trying to hang on to these friends? Well, the answer is here, that it is our mind. So the only person who can guard your mind is you. So you have to think, if I go to this place, is it going to completely disturb my mind? So maybe you've done years and years of practice and you've got to a certain level, and then you start going to place, and then it starts disturbing your mind and pulls you back again to where you used to be. We've got to be really careful about that. So I'm not saying turn your back on anything here, but what I am saying is that it's your mind and you are the one that needs to guard that mind. I think it was Shanti Deva that says that when you come to a place where it's disturbing, put your mind like a plank of wood, so it's solid and it's unmovable. And that's what we need to do. So if you are going to places that are going to disturb your mind, if you have to go to these places, then guard that mind. Put like a shield around it so whatever is happening bounces off. But we have to be realistic here, that whatever we take in through our five senses is stored somewhere in our mind. Now, whether that's going to come into a potential or not is up to us, really. But just think of that, that if you are in a place that is disturbing your mind, you are planting those seeds. Now, whether you water them or whether those seeds stay there, and not do anything for the rest of your life, who knows? But once you've taken all in this disturbing and non-virtuous stuff, it stays there in your mind. And if you keep going back, so if you keep going back to the same place, sooner or later your mind will change because you keep watering that seed, you keep growing that potential. So be really careful about the places you go to. If a place is disturbing your mind, then you need to think really carefully. And it's best if we can just keep going to places that increases your virtue, like your center, going to your center. Of course, it's a great thing to do because it's increasing your virtue. But maybe going somewhere else is causing your mind to be disturbed. So be careful, because whether you know it or not, everything that you've taken in through the five senses. And remember, we can only engage with the world through those five senses. We can only see it, hear it, taste it, touch it, or what it is, smell it. So that's the only way that we can take in the world. And everything that we take in is stored in our mind. So be careful of the places you're going to. So any questions there?
Briefly, did you want it done vocally or on chat?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, vocally is good.
Okay. So this is fascinating because yet again, it's something that contradicts modern psychology. For instance, avoidance conditioning, whereby, use the example of being fearful of the dentist. By avoiding that situation, not only do you compound it, but you get poor dental hygiene. A word or two about that very briefly.
But I think there's a difference there. I think that that's disturbing your mind because you're fearful. I think this was talking about disturbing your mind because they were non-virtuous acts. So the dentist is not non-virtuous, it's just painful and horrible. But we have to go to the dentist. So I think there's a slight difference there. So I don't think it's saying don't face up to the things you fear, but it's on about virtue. And so it said, keep away from places disturbing your mind and go to places where it's virtuous. So really, in a way, dentist is virtuous. So I think there's a slight difference there.
Okay, thank you. I understand. Yeah.
So the next one, until you attain stable realizations, worldly amusements are harmful. Therefore, abide in a place where there is no such distractions. So I think it's difficult to abide in a place where there's no such distractions. I mean, we can't all live in a cave, and that would have its own distractions as well. So, but what he's trying to say is until your mind is stable, until you have a real stable mind, then worldly amusements are harmful for us. So again, it's about checking in before you do something. It's about checking your mind. Is this place I'm going to, you know, maybe it's an amusement park, maybe it's the cinema, maybe it's down the pub, whatever it is. We have to understand that if our mind is not stable, if we don't have a very stable mind and a peace of mind, then wherever we go, we're going to be pulled in different directions, and we have to be careful about that. So, I mean, here it says don't go to these places, but I think, you know, it's okay to go to the cinema and that. But if you're going to see something that is all about killing, you know, just killing people for fun, or if it's just fast cars and things like that, then you have to be careful that it is going to disturb your mind. And until your mind is in a state where it's completely stable, everything in these worldly amusements is going to pull you in different directions. So think carefully before you go. So it's not saying don't have fun, because we all want fun and we need fun in our lives. So it's not all about sitting meditating. I mean, you know, we have to go out there and live our life, and we have to have fun. But we need to understand that this fun is just fleeting. It's just fleeting moments of pleasure. It's not going to be absolute solid happiness. That you can only get by going inward. You'll never get that outside of you. But you need to be thinking all the time when you're invited to different things, when you're going to different things. Think carefully. Is this going, again, back to disturbing my mind? Is my mind stable enough to be able to do these things without being disturbed by them? So again, it's just asking you to think before you blindly just keep doing things. Think about, is it going to be virtuous for me? Is it going to, you know, make my mind unstable? It's just about questioning the whole time. One of the best ways for you to learn about yourself is to keep questioning yourself. Why do I want to do this? What is the benefit of doing this? What will I get out of this? What will I lose by doing this? By asking yourself these questions, you're going to learn so much about yourself. And this is what Buddhism is about. It's about learning about yourself. It's about learning about your habits and your biases and, you know, the things you do, why you think this way. I mean, that's the whole point of Buddhism. So when we ask ourselves these questions, instead of blindly going and just doing things without thinking, we must firstly think. Before you say yes to anything, think about it and think about the consequences of it. You know, every action has a consequence. So if you're going to do, you know, negative or, you know, unvirtuous things or destructive things, there's going to be consequences for that. Whether those consequences will happen straight away or whether they'll happen in a few months or a few years, there will be consequences. And a lot of the consequences are just mental consequences about disturbing your mind. And remember, you're doing so much work. You're here listening to teachings, you're meditating, you're going to your center. So you're doing so much good work to help yourself. Don't ruin it by just blindly going to places without thinking, is this a helpful thing for me? So any questions? No. So this one's difficult. So avoid friends who cause you to increase delusions and rely upon those who increase your virtue. This you should take to heart. So I remember last time when I was there at your center, and we're doing 37 practices, and something like this came up in the 37 practices, and there was a girl who sat in the front row that argued with me that she thought that she should go to these friends that are, you know, causing her problems, disturbing her mind, because she thought that's the way that we can solve our problems. So if somebody makes me angry, then go to that person and let them make me angry, because that's how I'm going to deal with it. But that isn't the case. I mean, you know, you can keep going to this person and keep getting angry. And the point there is, the more that you get angry, the more it becomes a habit. And then once it becomes a habit, then you start doing it unconsciously, and then you become that angry person. So we have to avoid it. It says here, avoid friends, but avoid people, really, who are causing you to increase your delusions. Again, remember, you're doing such good work, and you don't want that ruined by having friends who are causing you problems. And again, this goes back to that email I had about these people who are Trump supporters that are really disturbing this guy's mind. And he wants to know, what should I do? This is what he needs to do. He needs to pull himself away, because these people are making him have more delusions and making him have a disturbed mind. So I think it's not saying here that turn away from your friends when they need help. So, you know, sometimes our friends are in a lot of pain emotionally, and they can be very negative. And of course, that can bring us down. But if they're just going through something, then we should be there for them. Remember, you know, bodhicitta and compassion and empathy, you know, they're big parts of Buddhist teachings. So we should help those people out. But these are the people here they're talking about here, are ones that are just increasing our delusions. They're just making it worse for us. You know yourself how hard it is to work on your delusions, to work on your agitated mind. It takes a lot of hard work. And it's so easy to be dragged back down again when you're just managing to, you know, put your head above the water. So be careful about the people you mix with. Again, it's about asking yourself questions. You know, I've known this person for years and years, but are they good for me? Are they helping me? Or are they causing me to keep being dragged back down again? Again, it's about you making choices. So nobody is telling you which friends you should have. This is for you to look at. You know, the Buddhist path is really an individual path. I mean, we all have to do the parts of the Buddhism which work for us, and, you know, try to do it the best we can. So it's up to you again to decide which people are good for you and which people are not good for you. And then the people who are not good for you, has it got to a stage where I need to let them go? Remember, people come into our lives and go out of our lives all the time, and we don't have to be holding on. I know it's difficult when it's a family member that is the one that's causing us to have increased delusions. But again, we should limit our time seeing that family member, or at least discussing. Maybe we, you know, they're a family member, maybe we just don't get into a big discussion with these people. So again, it's for you to think about what type of people you should be mixing with and what you get out of mixing with these people. So, any questions? Okay. So, since there is never a time when worldly activities come to an end, limit your worldly activities. So, again, we don't have to say yes to everything. We don't have to go out every night. We don't have to go to every wedding and every function and engagement parties and, You know, we don't have to do all of these things all of the time. Because again, the more you do worldly activities, the less time you've got to do your practice. And practice is what you need to be doing. Of course, like I said earlier, we need to have some sort of entertainment. We need to have some outside socializing. We're social animals. So you've seen during lockdown how people, when they're locked down and they can't be social, how their mental health issues have really started to rise. So, of course, we're social animals, so we should be doing some worldly activities, but we shouldn't be endlessly doing them. We shouldn't be going out all the time. You should really be making sure you have good, solid time where you can be doing your practice, where you can just sit and look at your mind, look what's coming up in your mind, and deal with that and see, is this a good thing? Is this something I need to change? We can only do those practices when we sit quietly, when we sit on our own. So, and they are the practices that are going to help you. You know, doing prayers and prostrations and all these things are good for us. But the major work is through meditation. It's through meditation and through sitting quietly and working on your mind is where you're going to be able to take yourself along the path and start to reduce your suffering. So look at your worldly activities and again ask yourself questions about, do I need to be going to this? So it doesn't say don't here, it just says limit your activities. And that's what we need to be doing, just making sure that we have enough time to be doing all of our practices. Any questions? Okay, you're very quiet today. So dedicate your virtues throughout the day and night and always watch your mind. Yeah. So in, I don't know if you've done the Lojong before, but in Lojong, there's a great thing about dedication where during the day, if good things happen to you, then when those good things happen, don't just think, oh, great, I'm really happy. Think that, okay, something good has happened to me. And then have an aspiration that and dedication that you want everybody to be feeling like you're feeling now because you're happy. So you want everybody to be happy. So instead of selfishly, you know, enjoying the moment, you spread the moment, or at least so it's not going to make everybody happy in the world. Of course it isn't. But what it does is it builds compassion in your mind. And that is where we need to be building compassion, this bodhicitta mind. So when good things happen to you, have a dedication that you want it to happen to everybody. So this is not sitting on the meditation cushion here. This is out in the world. Whenever good things happen, then dedicate and have an aspiration that you want everybody to feel the way I'm feeling. And when you're going through bad times or you're suffering, then have the dedication, the aspiration that you don't want anybody in the world to go through what you're going through. If you do these two things, it says here, and always watch your mind. You have to be watching your mind to do these two things because we get so wrapped up in ourselves, our little world about me, it's all me. And I'm happy, fantastic. Oh, I'm sad. Oh, poor me. And we forget about other people. We get so involved and wrapped up in ourselves that when you're off the meditation cushion, when you're out in the world, when something good happens, plant that seed in your mind. It'll take time, but once you keep dedicating every time something good happens, then it'll come natural to you later on. And when you do, when you're going through bad times or suffering and you wish nobody to suffer like this, if you do it a few times, it'll become a habit for you. But of course, we have to be watching our minds to be able to catch the good and the not so good times. but it is a wonderful practice to do. I mean, it sounds simple. It isn't, because of course we just allow these good things to happen, and then we just get all caught up in the bad times. But just keep it in your mind now. Just think about this and see if over the next couple of days you can do this. Try to catch when you're happy and dedicated, and catch when you're not so happy, and wish that nobody has to go through that. It is such a wonderful thing, honestly. It took me a long time to be able to do it, but now I find myself naturally doing it. Seem to be doing it unconsciously now. Just a habit thing. But even then, when it's a habit thing, I know that it comes up, and then of course I realize that I'm doing it. So it's not like it's unconscious and I don't even know. It starts unconsciously. Then I realize that, oh yeah, I want everybody to be happy. I don't want anybody to suffer. Again, it's a core practice of Buddhism. So any questions about that? Have a question so I can drink my drink. You're a tough crowd today. You lockdown people.
I just wondering if I can ask sort of a general question, Yeshe. I was sort of trying to take on board this about guarding our mind, not going to places that disturb us, making sure we have time for the practice. But would you say it's also a matter of having balance? So sometimes if we meet people who perhaps challenge us in a way, isn't that really a result of our karma? And isn't that also perhaps teaching us patience? And if we sort of withdraw from the world because we're lay people, it's very difficult for us to withdraw from the world. So I kind of think about my own situation. I'm quite a keen motorcyclist. I like to have an odd pint of beer and go down the pub with my biker mates. And an awful lot of these guys I meet, they're just ordinary guys, really like myself. But sometimes I feel they're some of the most genuine and nice people I meet. And I don't really feel they disturb my mind. But sometimes I meet somebody who does. But then I think if we can use our practice, they actually teach us something. I just really wondered I just would I just wondered if you could perhaps enlarge on that really.
Yeah.
In the light of what you're saying.
Okay. Yeah. So I didn't say withdraw fully. I mean, I did say that, you know, we have to make our own decisions on this point. So, you know, you like motorcycling, great. Then, you know, and if you can make some of that part of your practice, then wonderful. But if you were going motorcycling and then you went to have a pint and they were all saying and doing things that were totally against what your belief system is, you know, they're talking about horrible things you really don't like, then you wouldn't want to do it. So then you would withdraw.
No.
So the point is that you have to make a decision. And yeah, it's true that sometimes we get into a situation and it tests us and we learn from that. So none of these are saying withdraw from the world, but what it is telling you is be careful. Be careful with the people you mix with, and be careful about how they are disturbing your mind. You know, you've thought about this now and you thought, well, these people in the pub, they're good people and they're genuine people. But then they're not disturbing your mind. If they were disturbing your mind, then you would have to make a decision. So I'm not saying don't go down the pub. I mean, Buddha never said have a pint. I mean, he didn't have pints that day, but anyway, he never said about, you know, we shouldn't stop. We don't need to enjoy ourselves. He never said that. But he did say about, you know, guarding the mind and making sure that where we are going, it's not dragging us back. It's no point in spending so much time going along the path and then you keep going to the same place and they keep dragging you back and you work hard and they drag you back, you get nowhere. So it's a decision you have to make personally. But what you're saying, I mean, they're not disturbing your mind, so it's okay.
No.
So it's
Yeah,
fine.
good, thank you.
But I'm just
Yeah.
saying, make sure you have enough time also to do your practice and not just driving around the streets on your motorbike.
Yeah, yep. Excellent. Thank you. That's a good point. Thank you.
And as for the karma point, then, you know, it all depends how you see karma, really. So I wouldn't get too wrapped up in that person is in front of me because it's karmic. I mean, you know, if you look at Buddhism is all about cause and effect and cause and conditions, and you should better to be looking at that than looking at they must be here for karma. If you just think that due to a lot of causes and conditions, here we are, we're both together in this situation. I mean, that's a much clearer way of looking at things rather than dismissing things as, oh, they must be here because it's karma, or I'm going down the pub because it's my karma to go down the pub. That's misunderstanding, I think.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So because you have received advice, whenever you are not meditating, always practice in accordance with what the spiritual guide said. So here really that for me, it's best to split your day into three. I mean, I always think this is a great way. Do your meditation in the morning. You can do meditation as well any other time, but do meditation in the morning. Throughout the day, do mindfulness. In the evening, do a reflection practice. Look back over the day. What do I need to learn? What do I need to change? If you can structure your day this way, then every moment of your day is a practice. So what it's saying here is because we can't meditate the whole day, then we have to do whatever the teacher said when we're off the meditation cushion. So checking your mind, being mindful. So I know that we have this wonderful now modern mindfulness that is totally taken mindfulness away from what it's supposed to be. So if you have a look at this modern mindfulness that we're going through, this John Kabat-Zinn type of mindfulness, he's just taken this little part and just teaching that. It was never meant to be a standalone practice, mindfulness. And mindfulness is part of the three basic paths. So it was always supposed to be about virtue and or ethics and awareness and wisdom. You know, for mindfulness to work, it has to have all three of those components. You can't just take mindfulness out. If there's no wisdom, what's the point? If you're not having ethics, what's the point? You know, if you're being mindful, a burglar is going to break into your house. I tell you, he's going to be mindful. He doesn't want to make a noise. He doesn't want to disturb you. But where's the ethics? Where's the wisdom? So when I'm talking about mindfulness during the day, I'm not really talking about the new modern type of mindfulness. I'm talking about really being aware of your mind, being aware of what emotions are going on, being aware of your thought process, being aware of the tensions you're holding or sensations in your body, being aware of your immediate environment. This is what, I mean, a better word for mindfulness really in English is awareness, really, because it's not just about the mind. It's about, you know, what is going on around me. So if you do your meditation practice in the morning time and during the day, you keep bringing yourself back to your mind, keep checking in with your mind and making sure that your actions are actions that you want to do. They're ethical actions and they're actions that going to make you the person you want to be, and you're not doing actions that is taking yourself away from the person you want to be. This is what mindfulness was really about. So during the day, keep checking in with your mind, making sure that you're not letting your mind lead you, that you every now and again keep coming back. Of course, we can't be 24/7 mindful. We have the ability to think for the future. We have the ability to have memories of the past. So we can't stay 24/7 mindful, of course. So we do need to keep bringing ourselves back to our mind and checking our mind. What is going on? Whatever's going on here, is it disturbing my mind? Am I doing ethical things? Is this a wise thing to be doing? If you keep checking in during the day like that, you will learn so much about yourself, and you will stop yourself being, taken down the wrong path. So start your day meditation, do mindfulness throughout the day, and do a reflection practice at the end of the day, just reflecting back on the key things that have happened that day. So look at all the things that worked well for you. Look at those, because by looking at those, you reinforce them. It means you'll do them again. And look at the things that didn't quite work out the way that you wanted them to. And here we're not playing a blame game that it was their fault or it's my fault. We're just looking at, okay, this didn't work out the way I thought it should work out. So what can I do better? So we're learning from the experience of the day. So every day we're growing, we're changing. If you do the practice like that, then every moment of the day is going to be your practice. It's not that I have to sit down for half an hour or 1 hour a day. The whole day becomes a practice. And then you really do start moving down the path. You can meditate in the evening as well. I'm not saying you can't, but what I'm just saying that if you start your day with meditation, you start off the right way. You see, over here, everybody gets up at 5 or 4:30 and they do all this pranayama, breathing and meditation and yoga. It's very different in the East. I know in the West, you're not that good at getting up so early. But if you can get up a little bit earlier and do your meditation, you start the day off in the right frame of mind. It starts the day off properly. So any questions about that? Okay, so if you practice with great efforts, results arise quickly. Not sure about that. Without you having to wait for a long time. Yeah, it all depends what they mean by quickly here. And actually, it's not a race. Yeah, we're all different, and we will all take different times to be able to understand things. So I remember when I had my teachings in the monasteries on emptiness, and it just fell into place, and it all was just perfect, and I understood it clearly. And then I had teachings on karma and rebirth, and it made no sense to me. And it took me years to sort of work through those things. So we're all different. So we shouldn't be looking for speed. But the point here is that we need to practice with great effort. You need to put in that effort. Like everything in life, if you don't put in the effort, you're not going to get the result. If you don't study for your exams, you're not likely to pass the exams. So if you're not going to put in the effort to reduce your suffering, then guess what? You're not going to reduce your suffering. So Buddhism takes a lot of effort. You see that if you'd have chosen another religion, it would have been a lot easier. You could just pray to God or Allah or whatever, and they do all the work for you. But in Buddhism, then we have to work hard ourselves. We have to do the work. So you need to be putting in great effort. So the point is, I wouldn't worry about it arises quickly, because I'm not sure. I mean, it can, and other times it's not so. But if you put in the effort, you're going to start to see results. And I think that's what the point is. You know, when you started meditating, so many thoughts coming into your mind. You were getting impatient. It was boring to sit down and meditate. But once you persevered and put in the effort, then now meditation is something completely different. You want to meditate. You want to meditate longer. You see lots of benefit from it. And that's because you've put in the effort. So it's the same for the whole of the path. We need to be putting in the effort. So if from your heart you practice in accordance with Dharma, resources will come naturally to you. So again, here what it's talking about, we have to really want to, from our heart, be practicing the Dharma. Not doing it because yeah, it's a good thing to do. I should do it really, or my friends are doing it, or it gives me something to do. Because if you're doing it like that, then of course you're not going to get benefit from it. If you practice from your heart, you really want to do it, and you really feel deep inside, this is what I need to do, this is what I want to do, and you practice like that, then things will come to you. So it says resources will naturally come to you. These resources are that you'll get a calmer mind, you'll be a much happier person, not happy outside happy, an inside happy person. You'll have a peaceful mind. You'll be able to help people because you've reached a certain level, a certain realization. So these are the resources that come to you if you practice from your heart. But it takes time. So, you know, if you really want to do this, you will do this, yeah. And it will be difficult, and it will be sometimes painful, and it will take a lot of effort, and you will think that sometimes I'm moving forward and now I think I'm going back. If we keep persevering, if we keep practicing from the heart, trust me, you will start to move forward. You will get what they say here as resources. You will get all these things that will come to you once you start working on your mind. But you have to want to do it from your heart. If you do, trust me, you will benefit more. So it's not just about putting in great effort. We need to put in great effort, but that effort has to come from the heart and not necessarily from the head. Because remember, our head can be pulling us in a different direction. We should listen to our heart sometimes more than we should listen to our head. So any questions from those two? Okay. Friends, the things you desire. Okay. Friends, the things you desire give no more satisfaction than drinking seawater. Therefore, practice contentment. So, the dogs are awake. So, what he's saying here is that things we chase after outside of us will never bring us true happiness. They will never reach our desires. Our desires are totally endless. We get something, you get this new iPhone 12. Next year, you'll want the iPhone 13. You'll get a nice car. The neighbor will get a bigger car. You need a bigger car. You buy a nice house. You have to build an extension because everybody else is building one. It's never ending. It is like drinking salt water to quench your thirst. It's impossible. So it's impossible to find true lasting happiness by looking outside yourself. The only way you'll find this peace and lasting happiness is to have gratitude and is to have contentment. If you're grateful for what you have in your life, if you're contented for what you have in your life, you have everything. You don't need anything else. It's only when we're not grateful and we're not contented that we keep looking outside. Oh, I need to do this now. Oh, I need this. Or now I need to buy this. It's a fool's game. It's a never-ending thing. It's something that is just going to keep you trapped in this circle of desire going round and round and round. The only way to break that circle is to be contented with what you have. You may not have what everybody else has in the street. You may not have the best car, but it gets you from A to B. You may not have the latest phone, but it does everything you need it to do. So contentment and gratitude are two of the most wonderful things that we can give ourselves. And only we can give ourselves these. Nobody else can give us contentment. Nobody else can give us gratitude. Only us. So when you give yourself that, you're giving yourself such a wonderful thing, because it means you've stopped chasing outside desires and you've gone inward. That, believe it or not, is going to reduce so much of your emotional suffering. So, any questions? So, avoid all hoity. I love that word, hoity. Avoid all hoity, conceited, proud, and arrogant minds, and remain peaceful and humble. So, again, this is going to help us with our contentment and that. You know, people who are not contented uh, tend to be proud and conceited and hoity, as it said, and arrogant minds. All of those things, to be have so much pride. So remember, when we're talking about pride here, we're talking about selfish pride. So we're not talking about having pride for your children when they do something, of course, or having pride for other people who achieve something. We must have that pride. We must have the unselfish pride, because that is going to help you. You know, if we can rejoice in somebody else's, you know, passing an exam, or somebody else achieve something, if we can be happy and joyful about that, then that's wonderful. I mean, that's like one of the four immeasurables there, to have this open-hearted joy. That means not joy for me, but joy that things are happening good for other people. So that's that type of pride is okay. We're talking here about the selfish, conceited pride, the arrogant pride. This is going to get you absolutely nowhere. One, it's not going to win you friends, most definitely. And two, it's going to disturb your mind again. And it's you that is doing this disturbing, is your pride. So you have to see that everybody in this world, we're all in this together. We're all trying to struggle through life and trying to make life, you know, the best we can, and get through life the best we can. We're all doing that. So what makes you think that you are better than somebody else? What makes you think maybe you're at work and you've been doing this job for 15 years, and then this intern comes in and has a new idea, and you, no, we've been doing it like this for 15 years. There's nothing wrong with it. Once we start to get that sort of conceited and proud and arrogant mind, it closes our mind down. And once your mind is closed, then of course, nothing good is going to get in there. So we need to let go of this pride and this conceitedness, and open up our mind and be open to the possibilities that, yeah, you may have been doing it for 15 years, but somebody else has now got a better idea than you. Accept that. It's fine. So unselfish pride is fine, but the selfish type of pride is not good. So any questions? So avoid activities that are said to be meritorious, but which in fact are obstacles to Dharma. So this again is talking really about generosity. And when we're being generous, it should be, again, what I'm talking about, selfless generosity and not selfish generosity. So your generosity, I'm giving this, look at me, here I'm giving this money to charity. Everybody, look how good I am. So that may look like it's meritorious, but actually you're going again, it's going to be an obstacle to your Dharma, because what you're doing is building up pride. So be careful about when you are being generous and doing activities like generosity, which we must do. I mean, you know, the first part of the six perfections is generosity, and the six perfections is the path to being a bodhisattva. So, and the Buddha taught that the very first step on that path is generosity. So we must have generosity, but it must be selfless. It's much better to give and don't talk about it because you want to help people, than to give and to make a big song and dance about it, because it may look like you're doing a real meritorious thing, but actually you're not. You're doing something that's going to be an obstacle to your Dharma practice, because you're going to have pride. So anything? Okay, profit and respect disturb the mind, so brush them aside like stones on the path. So this is from the, and I think the next three. For some reason, these next three are from the 8 worldly concerns, but there are only 6 worldly concerns here. So the first one is profit and respect. So, you know, if we're going out to try to earn respect, actually, it's usually profit and loss. I see what they've done here. So we'll split it then, we'll do it our way. So profit and loss, if we're going out just to make profit, you know, one day that will turn into loss. We see profit as a good thing, yeah, and we see loss as a bad thing. But both of them are going to cause you problems. So in life, some people see the rose as a beautiful flower, and some people see the stem as all thorny and prickly. So the person who sees the beautiful flower is the optimist and the positive, and the one that sees the stem is the pessimist. But realistically, life is both the flower and it's the stem. So we have to be careful that we don't go for the flower and ignore the stem, because life is up and life is down. So all of these are exactly the same here. If we're looking for profit and just trying to get profit, doesn't matter how we do it, then of course we're going against our Dharma again. Loss is a really bad and a sad thing for us, but we have to try and walk the middle path between these 8 worldly concerns. Remember, Buddha always said that if in doubt, go down the middle. He probably didn't use those words, but that's what he was trying to say. So profit and loss, they're both going to cause us suffering. Praise and blame are going to cause us suffering. Fame and insignificance are going to cause us suffering. Happiness and sadness are going to cause us suffering. So all of these 8 worldly concerns, which are wrapped up in these 3 here, will be causing us suffering. They're extremes. There's some extremes that we think here are desirable, and some extremes that we think are undesirable. But both of them are going to cause us problem. They're both worldly concerns. So we need to be going down the middle of these things, not getting ourselves wrapped up in the too much profit and too much pleasure and fame. I mean, particularly fame now. Look at the reality TV. Everybody wants to be famous now. So, and when that fame comes, look at all the problems that come with that fame. So all these things are worldly concerns, and we need to be careful that we're not being pulled one way or the other, and we stay going down the middle way of these 2 things. So we're not being seduced by the rose or growing aversion to the thorn. We're being realistic that life is sometimes both of those things, and we should go down the middle. So that got rid of 3 of them in one go there. So any questions? No, my drink is...
Can I go back to, hello?
Yeah.
Can I go back to pride?
Yeah.
And you said unselfish pride is okay. Well, it seems to me like that's a contradiction in terms. All pride would be selfish. I'd have thought.
No, your pride, the pride, the unselfish pride is you're proud of your children.
Well, that's still pride of my children over somebody else's children. They're my children.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that. But, you know, if you're not going to, it's maybe pride isn't the best word there, but yeah, I mean, I think it is, that you're not thinking about yourself, you're thinking about others. So you're not saying your children are better than others, but your children did something good, or your friend passed an exam, or they did something, they achieved, they got a job. So we should be pleased for that. We should be proud that they've done that. But that pride isn't about me. It isn't like they're my children or that's my friend, because then that's your pride. So we're just being proud for them. So really, again, it goes back to like the four immeasurables, the open-hearted joy, where we have joy for what other people are doing. We rejoice at their achievements. So it's that type of pride I was talking about. And maybe pride is, we think of pride as being a selfish thing, but it isn't really. Well, it can be, but this is about other people. So it's not that I'm proud that they're my children. I'm just proud of their achievement. I just rejoice in their achievement.
I think there's a difference there between pride and sympathetic joy. And I think if we use the word pride, then we've still got a subtle level of it's mine. Like, I don't think the Buddha would have been proud of his 500 arhats, but he would have been full of sympathetic joy for them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But actually, this teaching comes from Buddha, and he did mention the two different types of pride. In fact, I think he mentioned another one. I can't remember that.
Yeah.
That did come. Well, I mean, it's in translation, isn't it? So remember, these teachings are translated from a different language, and sometimes we don't have the right word, so we lump everything together. Like suffering really isn't what the Buddha was talking about, but it's the word we use. Emptiness wasn't what he was talking about. It's the word we use. So maybe, yeah, pride. I think pride is the right word, but I think it's just the way that maybe you see pride as always being a bad thing, and it isn't if it's for somebody else. If you split it as selfish and unselfish pride, then it would make sense. But I think you've got in your mind that pride is always about me or about the person. But
I think unselfish pride is just a more subtle level of selfish pride.
Yeah. I think, you're understanding it properly, but I think that, it's just a word, and we're getting the word mixed up a little bit.
Yeah.
But that sympathetic, I don't like the word sympathetic, but the open-hearted joy, I think, is what we're talking about there. But, that is a sense of pride for other people in a way. So, but thank you. I managed to get a drink. So where did we get to? So we do not know how long we will live. So make wholesome preparations for the future. So it's true enough, and we don't know how long we live, and we certainly don't this year anyway. This seems to be an awful year for us. So make preparations for the future. Now, the way we make preparations for the future is that, one, we meditate on death and deal with it before you get there. Because if you wait till you get there, then believe me, it's going to be a little difficult for you. Because when you're on your deathbed, you can't start dealing with death. You need to be sorting death out in your mind and putting it, so, okay, I've got it, I'll put it to one side. So then when death comes, you're fine. So we need to be making preparations, understanding death, really understanding the causes and conditions. Things happen through a series of causes and conditions. Understanding emptiness, that, the way we see things is not exactly the way they are. So if you understand this, you're preparing yourself. So what you're doing now, really, listening to teachings and meditating, you're preparing yourself for the inevitable, which is death. But I would say to you that, you need to, and I'm not talking about the Tibetan Book of the Dead or anything like that. That's not really preparing you, that's scaring you. I'm talking about in life here, now, what we can be doing, sorting death out in our mind. We're all heading that way, and some of us are closer than others, but we're all going the same way, yeah? We're all heading towards death. So you need to be able to sort it out and do proper meditation on death, and have somebody, I don't know if you've ever had anybody come and teach you on death, but it's a good teaching to do. I don't do that teaching, but I know that some teachers do. And I'm not talking about POA, releasing out of your head, or the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I'm just talking about understanding death through meditation. So there are many good meditations where you can understand death. the starting point really is understanding impermanence. If you can really understand impermanence, it takes you that way. If you look at the impermanence of everything that's around, all your belongings, once you understand that, then of course you're going to understand the impermanence of life, because they're both the same. So it's good to start off with things that are easier. So meditate and understand the impermanence of your car, your belongings and everything. And then that will then lead you nicely into the impermanence of life, where you now can meditate on death. But we need to be preparing ourselves. It is coming, whether we like it or not. And, you know, we don't know when it's coming. So it's best to be prepared. You know, the worst thing to happen is to have regret and have fear on your deathbed. You know, you have plenty of time now to start preparing for it. So don't waste this time. Start understanding the impermanence of things, then start meditating on death. I know it's not a happy, jolly subject, but, you know, it's something that's inevitable and something that, you know, you should be looking at, preparing yourself. So any questions about that?
Well, just to say, we have not had a formal teaching on this, but it's something for the future. Thank you for suggesting that. We've had various readings that we've done, but that's a very good topic for a future visiting teacher. Thank you, Yeshe.
But not me. So you will have to depart. So you'll have to depart, leaving everything behind. So don't be attached to anything. Again, this is another good starting off practice, to understand that when we go without anything. So all of that effort you've put into making a big house and having a big car and lots of money in your bank, as soon as you take your last breath, all of that becomes somebody else's. We can't take anything with us. So it makes you sit and think for a moment, am I putting my effort in the right place here? If I'm putting my effort in to have a huge bank account and a nice house, or a really big house that I don't need, or all these things, the best, most expensive designer clothes, when you die, all of that goes to somebody else. Of course, you're dead and then it's for your family to argue over, but everything that you've been striving for, everything that you've spent lots of money and lots of effort on, at the moment of your last breath, are gone. They're no longer yours. So then don't waste your time on things that are not going to help you at death. And it's another thing really, that at the moment of death, if you have lots of worries about who's going to have my bank account now, and who's going to take the car, and who's going to have my house, what a way to die. We don't want to die like that. So when we leave with nothing. So just think, do I need to be spending my time on meditating about death, or do I need to be, you know, getting as much money as I can to get in the bank account? Think about it. Which is the more logical out of those two? So don't get yourself too attached to these worldly things. Think about what you need to have. Again, it goes back to contentment, doesn't it? If you're happy with what you've got, then great. So many people would say to me, oh, you should move into a bigger place. I have one room. I only need one room. What do I need another room for? If I have another room, that's twice as much cleaning and then twice as much care. I'm contented with what I've got. And I think what I've got is fantastic and it's great for me. I'm contented. So I'm not even looking. I don't even dream of, you know, having anything bigger and better, because I'm contented. And that's the way we should be looking at life. So don't get attached to all of these things that you can't take with you. Spend your time on something that is going to be really worthwhile, and that is looking at death. Generate compassion for all beings, and especially avoid humiliating others. Of course, compassion is what Buddhism is all about, really. But I see a lot of this. When I came over here, I'd had lots of teachings in the West for years and years about compassion, and I saw compassion in the West, and I saw people doing charity and being kind. And then I came over here and had teachings from the masters about compassion. And the impression I got really that they didn't actually know what it was to put it into practice. They knew wonderfully about how to explain it and how we should meditate on it, but actually then going the next step and actually doing it, they didn't really get that point. And you'll see over here, there's not that many Buddhist charities because we only spend a lot of time talking about it. We don't have time to do it. So, and that concerned me a little bit. And also, of course, over here, it's more about family. So your charity, your compassion is for your family. And if you're not in the family unit, then you're somebody else's duty. You're not our duty. So there is that as well. But compassion, generating compassion, isn't just sitting and doing, bodhicitta prayers or doing the four immeasurables again. It's not about that. It's about understanding it and having that compassionate mind and then doing it. If we don't go to that next step of doing it, then what is the point? If you do the Tonglen practice, of course, you're not going to actually take the suffering from other people, but you're going to build up strong, strong compassion in yourself. When you have that strong compassion, you'll want to put compassion into action. So compassion shouldn't just be a nice idea. It should be a verb. It should be something that we do. We do compassion. So doing the meditation practices is really going to help us build that, and particularly Tonglen, build that wonderful sense of compassion for all beings. In fact, in doing all of the four immeasurable practices is going to connect us and make us compassionate. But then we need to go the next step. And I'm not saying we need to give money. Compassion can be such a little thing. Saying hello to somebody in the street can make somebody's day. Just now, during lockdown, going round to your neighbour just to make sure they're okay is compassion. It's caring about somebody. Going shopping for the person who's high risk, old people or people who are ill, and doing their shopping for them now is compassion. We should be doing these things. We should be helping these people. So when you think about compassion, don't just think about it as becoming a bodhisattva or something like that. Think about it that compassion has to be put into action. Else all it is just fine words. And anybody can have fine words. And over here we have a lot of fine words, but it's difficult to see them actually doing anything about it. So think about that. Think about when you're doing your compassion practice, when you're building strong compassion in yourself, then think about how can I now put that into action? Even in little ways, it makes a huge difference. So any questions?
Yeah, sure. That was actually very helpful because it's something a number of us encounter when we go teaching in a school, for instance. Well, what do Buddhists do? And of course, there are few and far between Buddhist charities and so forth. There are some, but of course, not as extensive as, say, Christianity and so forth. So that is quite a helpful point. Yeshe, another point, I'm mindful of the lateness of the hour in India, and you've perhaps covered half the amount. Would you like to break off and get to bed, and we could resume the second half, as it were, at another date?
No, if you're okay, I'm okay.
Well, we're okay. It's barely twilight. Are you sure?
If you hadn't said the time, I didn't even know it. Now you're making me tired. No, I'm fine.
Okay.
So have no hatred for enemies and no attachment to friends. So again, here, we need to make sure that we're not splitting people into groups. And, we're back really to the four immeasurables here, where they talk about three different types of people. So people we like, people we dislike, and strangers and neutral people. We shouldn't be dividing people into that. We shouldn't be loving the ones we like and then disliking, or hating people we dislike. And then for strangers, we don't care either way. Because that stranger could become your friend. Remember, all your friends now used to be strangers. So we shouldn't be categorizing people like this. The people who we dislike, maybe one day you're in trouble and the person you dislike comes and helps you. Maybe that friend that you like so much and you're so attached to does something against you or does something to hurt you. All of those can change. Yeah? So we shouldn't be categorizing people as like, dislike, and neutral people. We should be seeing everybody as human beings. Everybody has a right to be on this planet. Everybody has a right to, reduce their suffering and find happiness. We all have that right. So don't have hatred for people you dislike, and don't have like a I don't care attitude for strangers, and just like people that are close to you. Because if you do that, then of course, where's the compassion in that? So, you've done years of compassion prayers and everything, and now the strangers, I don't care about them, I don't know them, and these people, I don't even like them. I like these people. There is no compassion in that. Compassion has to be for everybody. As it's not compassion, it's discrimination. If you say, oh, I have compassion for them, I don't have it for them, then that's called discrimination, isn't it? We have to have compassion for everybody. So don't get attached to people you like and have aversion for people you don't like and don't care about other people. See everybody as human beings. Build compassion for them. So do not be jealous of others' good qualities, but out of admiration, adopt them yourself. Yeah, so instead of seeing people and their good qualities and thinking, we should be thinking, oh yeah, these are good quality. This is a good quality to have. I want to have that. So instead of, being jealous or dismissive of other people who are doing good things, then see that and, rejoice that they are doing this. And actually, I want to do this. I should be doing this. So adopt these qualities. So jealousy is another one like pride. I mean, selfish pride is not good for us. I mean, it's just never going to, jealousy never works, does it? I mean, there's never been a time when we've been jealous and it's helped us out. It never does. It's an emotion that is quite destructive. So don't have jealousy. Rejoice in other people's achievements. And if they're doing something that is admirable, then you do that. Change your ways. You become like them instead of, disparaging them. So do not look for faults in others, but look for faults in yourself and purge them like bad blood. So this is like the same out of the 37 practices. So instead of going around criticizing and judging everybody else, maybe we should sit and look in the mirror first. Because, and I think in Christianity, they say about throwing stones in a glass house, isn't it? Something like that. This is exactly the same. Instead of spending our time worrying about how bad they are, look at you. What are you doing? How do you need to change? None of us can put our hand on our heart and say, I'm perfect. I don't do anything wrong. I don't harm people. We all do. It may be that we don't really mean to, but we do. So instead of looking at other people's faults, spend that time on looking at you. And here we're not putting ourselves down, but the only way we can change is when we look at things on our mind that need to be changed. There is so much, I can tell you now, if you were born now and the moment you were born, you start working on your mind and you died when you were 100, you still wouldn't have got through all that work. So it's not like we don't have anything else to do. So I've done all my work. So now I might as well criticize these people. We haven't done our work. None of us have done our work. We still have work to do. So we don't have that time to waste on what other people are doing. We should be looking at ourselves, spending that time looking at ourselves. What do I need to change? How do I need to become the person that I really want to be? How can I reduce my suffering, which will help other people? These are what we should be looking at, and not looking and criticizing and judging other people and trying to find fault in them. Look at what you need to work on and work on that. And that's enough work. Trust me, there's enough there to be getting on with. So any questions about those last three? Okay. So do not contemplate your own good qualities, but contemplate the good qualities of others and respect everyone. So I think this is going back now, we're going back to our pride again, that, you know, their selfish pride, that we're just looking at how good we are and we're not worrying about other people's good qualities. It's all about me, me, me. You know, it's quite easy for us to fall into that. You know, if we do, or we think we're doing something good, then of course we have a little bit of pride come up, but we shouldn't be looking at our good qualities. We just said we should be looking at things that we need to change. If we have good qualities, then we don't need to be changing them. We need to reinforce them and just keep them. But we don't need to keep contemplating and looking at my good qualities. You know, it's not going to help you if you look and think, oh yeah, I'm not very good here. Oh, but I'm good here. That's not going to help you. If you're not very good here, what do I need to do to change that? That's going to help you. No, look at me. I'm really good at this. It's not going to help you. But looking at other people's good qualities and then saying to them that, you know, you have good qualities. And if they're qualities that, you know, you don't have, then take those qualities. Become like that person. And so instead of looking at your good qualities and thinking how great you are, look at other people's and see, can I become a better person? The answer to that is yes. It's always yes. We can always become a better person. There's never a time we can sit back and say, well, I'm the best person I can be. If you do say that, then you've set your bar very, very low there. We can always improve. We can always get better. So, oh, this is a very Buddhist one. See all living beings as your father and mother, and love them as if you were their child. So I don't know if I put father in here or if father was put in. Usually we just say mother, but there's many people who have bad experiences with mothers. So anyway, mother, father, or guardian, somebody who's brought you up. So we should see everybody like that. So the love, I mean, the point is, the love that we have for the person that has brought us up is the love that we should have for all people. Very difficult, but it's not impossible. It is completely doable. But again, we need to be meditating on compassion and really understanding compassion and not splitting the people into those three categories, keeping everybody as one, seeing everybody as the same as the person who has brought you up, the person that has, you know, helped you in this life. If you see everybody the same like that, then it's perfect. It's fantastic. Because then you're going to have no discrimination. You're going to have true compassion for people. So try to see everybody the same as, pick one person. It really doesn't matter if it's a mother, a father, a guardian, an auntie, an uncle, or whoever it is, somebody who you really look up to has really helped you in your life. Then see everybody the same as that. So whatever that person is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a mother. Just see everybody the same and try to have the same respect, love, empathy and compassion and kindness for all people the same way as you do for this one person. If you can do that and of course it's a difficult thing, but if you can do that, then it means that you have true compassion. And remember, like I just said, compassion is for everybody. It's not just for the people we like. So, any questions? So always keep a smiling face, yes, and a loving mind, and speak truthfully without malice. Well, I mean, it's difficult to keep a smiling face 24/7, but I think the point is here that, you know, if we can try to keep ourselves positive, it helps us. If you get negative and you allow that negative thought process to grow and grow, of course, it brings us down emotionally, psychologically, and even physically, because, you know, many illnesses come from being too negative all the time. So what I read here, a smiling face, is really to try to be as positive as you can and try to be as optimistic as you can. Understanding that, you know, the world is not always going to be a place where we can smile at. I mean, you know, we have to be realistic about it. But as much as we can, we need to fight that negativity with positivity. So I'm not a big lover of this positive psychology where everything is positive, because, you know, that's not life. And sometimes we learn from the negative and we learn from situations that are not great. But as much as we can, we need to try to keep our mind as positive and as optimistic as we can. And having speaking truthfully, again, of course we need to, and particularly in this time, you know, the world has gone through some last few years of just awful behavior from many different people, and particularly on social media and that. So when he says speak truthfully here, we need to add a little clause, I think, that also write truthfully, because we do a lot of our communication now on Twitter and WhatsApp and all these social media sites. So we need to be truthful, honest, and kind there. So many people just do knee-jerk reactions and they say something and it's awful. And another thing that I find really strange at the moment is that everybody has an opinion. It doesn't matter who you are. If somebody says something on Twitter, everybody has an opinion about it. It's okay not to have an opinion, yeah. If you don't know anything about it, it's okay. I don't know anything about it. That is perfectly fine. We have to make sure that when we speak the truth. When we write the truth. And if what we're going to say, either speaking or writing, is going to harm somebody, then don't do it. There's no benefit in harming people like that. So the next one, if you talk too much, or I do that, if you talk too much with little meaning, you will make mistakes. That's true. Forever speak in moderation, only when necessary. I'm not a good one to talk about this because I do talk a lot. But maybe it's not all meaningless, but I definitely talk a lot. So again, what it's saying is don't just talk for the sake of talking. Don't just, you know, talk rubbish. And again, you know, looking at the internet, don't just put rubbish out there just for the sake that, oh, I haven't tweeted anything today. I better just tweet this. You know, if we have nothing to say nothing. And sometimes the best thing to say is nothing. You know, if what we're going to say is going to harm and, you know, is not going to be helpful, then again, don't say that thing. So it's good that we can communicate, but sometimes so much can be said in silence. So much more can be said by silence. And we can learn so much with silence ourselves. So, you know, don't go talking just for the sake of talking. Before you start saying anything, think about it. Is it truthful? Is it kind? Is it positive? Is it going to help? Great. Carry on talking. If it's none of these things, best we shut up. because there's no benefit for anybody from that. So we don't have to have an opinion about everything, and we don't have to talk about everything. So if you engage in many meaningless activities, your virtuous activities will degenerate. Therefore, reduce activities that are not spiritual. So, I mean, we've covered things like this earlier on, really, that if your activities are not going to help you, they're not helping anybody, then really don't waste your time doing them. So think about activities. Like I said before, do you need to be going this place? Do you need to be doing this? Is it going to help you? These are the questions that we should be asking ourselves. If you ask the question, if you question yourself like this, then your virtue will grow. If you just go and do any old activity because everybody else is doing it, then of course it's difficult for us to be virtuous. So we need to be thinking about what we're going to do. Is what we're doing a wise thing to do? Is it ethical thing to do? If we can do that, then most definitely we're going to build our virtue. But if we're just going to blindly follow everybody else and just do things that are not going to help you and not going to help other people, then there's no point in those things. It's completely meaningless to put effort into activities that have no essence. Yeah. So again, that's the same thing. You know, we can put an awful lot of effort sometimes into things that are quite pointless, and then nobody gains from it. So again, it's about asking yourself questions, checking in with yourself. What am I going to do? Is it going to be, 2 hours of a lot of effort and there's absolutely no point in it? So I think like that about when I do the gardening, but anyway, I know that there is some point in it, but it seems effortless. So if the things you desire do not come, keep a happy and a relaxed mind. So again, I think that's more to do with gratitude and contentment. Of course, there are lots of things we'll desire in life that won't come, for some reason or other. We can't afford them. They're out of our range of, abilities to do them. Whatever it is, there are obviously going to be things that we can't get. So instead of getting sad and angry about that, we need to keep a relaxed mind and understand, yeah, I'm not going to get these things. Back to gratitude and contentment. If you're grateful and you have contentment, then it's fine, isn't it? It's also fine. I'm not saying that you shouldn't want the latest iPhone or a car, but we should be understanding that we're not doing it to look better than everybody else. I need to buy this because I need it. If you need it and you can afford it, then it's okay. But again, remember that it's impermanent. But don't go, chasing after things just to keep up with the Joneses or be better than anybody else. Because again, like I said earlier, that is a fool's game. You're never going to win that game. So beware, offending others will bring suffering, therefore be honest and straightforward. If you cause suffering to other people, it will come back on you. That's clear. It may not come back on you in the way you think, but it will definitely come back on you. Actions have consequences. That's it. Cause and effect. Whatever you do, there will always be a consequence. So be careful what you're doing, because if you're doing things that are going to offend, hurt, harm, and you will pay somewhere along the line. Even if it's only psychologically or emotionally, you'll pay. So remember cause and effect, and remember that whatever you do, there is always going to be a consequence for that. So I haven't asked for a while. Any questions? Okay. Since all the happiness and suffering of this life arise from previous actions, Do not blame others. Oh, you know, we're so good at this, aren't we? I don't know who taught us this, but we're very perfect. And we're not really taught it in school, but we are perfect at blaming other people. You know, we don't have to, you know, study it. We just seem to find it easier to blame other people. There is always somebody to blame. So we shouldn't be blaming other people, because it says that things come from previous actions. So again, we're looking at actions have consequences. So your happiness, your suffering are coming from some consequences. Now, it may be something you've done a long while ago. It may be something you did yesterday. You know, it's difficult to know. World is about causes and conditions, cause and effect. So if we lived in a little bubble and, you know, only what I did affected me, then we could see that my happiness has come from here. But we don't live in a bubble. And what I do will affect you. What you do will affect other people. So we can never really see. That's why, you know, again, it's another thing that we like to do. We like to have answers. We like to, well, what caused that? Sometimes we will never know what caused it, because there isn't usually just one cause. There's a whole lot of causes and conditions. You know, what I'm doing is affecting somebody else is doing is affecting, you know, it's like a spider's web of causes and conditions. So sometimes we can't even see what caused these things. And sometimes it's not even of benefit to spend that much time looking at what caused that. You know, if it's happened, we need to deal with it. If we're suffering, we need to deal with that suffering. But don't go blaming other people, because, or blaming yourself. The blame game is never going to work. So if you have suffering, deal with the suffering. Don't try to look back at, oh yeah, they did that, they made me suffer. You know, so many people say things like, you know, he made me angry. No, he didn't. You're the one that's angry. That anger came from you. You decided to become angry. What he did triggered something in you. But you have choices. You don't have to be angry. You can't blame them for making you angry. That anger only exists in one place, and that's there. And you allowed that to happen. So instead of blaming other people for that, you should be looking, what is it about this situation that made me act like that? Because again, we're learning about ourselves, and then we can change. So whenever we play the blame game, it is never going to work. So any questions? So the next one is always repay the kindness of your spiritual teacher. Thank you. There's nothing more to be said about that one. So since you cannot tame the minds of others until you've tamed your own, begin by taming your own mind. Yeah. So I said this at the beginning, that, you know, we can't help other people until we've helped ourselves. Until you've sorted your mind out, how are you going to help other people? Like I said earlier, if I'm suffering from anxiety and somebody comes to me to help them with anxiety, how can I help them? I'm also suffering. So first of all, we have to tame our minds. Once we've tamed our minds, we can help other people. But until that point, you can't truly help other people. So instead of going around just trying to help other people all the time, we should be taming our minds. Spend some time on looking at our minds. So I'm not talking about compassion here. What I'm talking about is that trying to change other people. We can't. You know, if they don't want to change, they won't change. If you don't want to listen to certain parts of this, you won't listen to it. All people can do is put it out there for you to think about. So what this is saying is, you work on your mind. When you've done that, then maybe you'll be able to help other people's mind and tame their mind. But until you've worked on your mind, then you can't. Before I started teaching, I did years and years and years of study and practice and meditation, and 3 years meditation, just so I could get myself. And even then, I didn't think I was going to be a teacher. But I was told that I could be a teacher. I was said allowed to be a teacher. But, you know, it took years and years and years to get to the point where I'm confident that I can do a little bit. I can't help you everything, but you know, I can help you in certain ways. So I tamed my mind as much as I could. So I now can help you, hopefully, to start taming your mind. So don't worry about trying to change other people. Change yourself. That's a huge task. It's a really big job to do. Any questions? Okay. Since you will definitely have to depart without the wealth you have accomplished. Okay, so this one is again talking about a death, that you can't take your wealth with you. So it's saying don't do negative things to gain lots of wealth, because those negative things are gonna, you know, not gonna help you at the time of death. So if you are working and you just happen to be getting wealth and you're doing it in a positive way and you're helping people with that wealth, then great. But if you're accumulating wealth and you're doing it in a negative way, it's not going to help you at the point of death. You can't take it with you, and it will disturb your mind. You know, if you've got, I was going to say Indian now, I can't think, like millions, yeah. If you've got millions in your bank, then, you know, it's not going to help you at the time of death. It may help you a little bit that you can maybe go into a private hospital and die, but you're still going to die and you're not going to be able to take it with you. So all that time and effort you're accumulating and all that negative energy that you're accumulating to get all this wealth is not going to help you at the time of death. Distracting enjoyments have no essence. Therefore, sincerely practice giving. So instead of just spending time on having a great time yourself and enjoying yourself, think about giving, think about having compassion, think about generosity. Remember what I said, that the first step on the Bodhisattva path, the 6 perfections, is generosity. And without generosity, you're never going to go up the other levels. If we can't be generous, if we're just selfish, then you're never going to be able to go on that path. It will never happen. So we have to have generosity. So don't get so involved in, you know, making enjoyment for yourself the whole time. Think about giving. Think about compassion, charity. So always keep pure moral discipline, for it leads to happiness. Yeah, like I said earlier, the 3 basic paths. So ethics and awareness and wisdom. Whatever you're doing, they have to have these 3 parts. You can't just take one. You can't just take out the mindfulness, the awareness, like I said, or just take out ethics. Ethics has to have wisdom. It has to have awareness. So whatever practice you're going to do, whatever you are doing, ensure that it covers these 3 things. If somebody has given you a Buddhist practice to do, check. Is there awareness here? Is it ethical what I'm doing? Is there wisdom? If it is, then it's a Buddhist practice. If it doesn't cover those 3 things, then it clearly isn't. Because in Buddhism, everything has to be part of these 3 basic paths. So by keeping pure morality, then of course it is going to lead to happiness. Happiness here, we're talking about inner happiness, peace of mind, a calm and peaceful mind, not the happiness of outside joys. Since hatred is rife in these impure times, don the armor of patience, free from anger. So this was written so long ago, but look, we're still in these times of hatred. We haven't moved on very much, unfortunately. So the way to fight anger and hatred is through trying to build patience. And we build patience by understanding that the world doesn't revolve around me. It's not all about me, me, me. There are other people in this world, and they have different ways of doing things. So just because I want it doing this way isn't necessarily the right way. So we lose patience because it's all about control and it's all about me. So we need to start building patience and tolerance. There seems to be a real lack of tolerance at the moment. We seem to be put ourselves into certain fields, like in America, Trump and Biden, you lot in UK, Brexit and staying in Europe. How you've split yourself, how you've divided yourself, how you've made yourself angry, how families have been split apart in America and in Britain through not having patience, not understanding or trying to understand somebody else's point of view. So we can't go through life like this. America and Britain itself cannot continue like this. Something has to give. People have to become more tolerant and more patient, because if you don't, then you're just destroying the fabric of the world. And what you're doing is disturbing your mind. And, you know, maybe your mind has already been disturbed by Brexit. Hopefully next year it's been done and then you have to get on with whatever the consequences are. But you have to start building together. America now will have to start building. We'll have to start coming together. You will have to start coming together. We cannot go on through life with hatred and arguing. It can't be done. So try to build patience. Try to understand other people have other viewpoints, and they have every right to that viewpoint, as you have the right to your viewpoint. So start to build patience in yourself. Start to be tolerant with other people. Life isn't just about us. It's about everybody. So any questions? Nobody wants to talk about Brexit. I know you're all scared of it. So you remain in a state of suffering through the power of laziness. Therefore, ignite the fire of effort. Oh, I like that. Ignite the fire of effort. So when we're lazy, then of course, when we're being lazy, we can't put in any effort. So like I said earlier, if you don't put in great amounts of effort, you're not going to be able to go along this path. Most definitely you won't be able to move along the path if you're being lazy. So, you know, ignite your fire of effort. Oh, I can remember that. That's such a good way of putting it. So now today, after this session, I want you all to, oh, you've missed bonfire night, but anyway, ignite your effort now, okay? So since the human life is wasted by indulging in distractions, now is the time to practice meditation. That's true. Now is the time to practice meditation. At the time when the world is in turmoil and things are not going as, you know, with the pandemic and everything, it's a great time. Now you're in semi-lockdown again. What better time to do meditation? What better time to ignite your fire of effort, huh? Than while you're in lockdown. Instead of moaning about, oh, we can't go here, we can't go there, then put in the effort now. Do the meditation. You've been given a great opportunity to practice. It's like you've got your own 1 month retreat given to you by the government. You can thank them for that. So put in the effort and do your meditation practice now. Now is the time, really. You know, don't waste this opportunity. Next year, we'll probably all be back to work and we'll be too busy. And then you'll be wishing for lockdown. So don't waste this opportunity, meditate. So being under the influence of wrong views, you don't realize the ultimate nature of things. Therefore, investigate correct meanings. So, of course, correct meanings are we have to understand about impermanence. We have to understand about cause and effect. We have to understand and implement the Four Noble Truths with the Eightfold Path. These are the key teachings. We don't have to go as far as emptiness. I mean, if we can understand these ones, it will slowly lead us towards emptiness. But understanding that attachment is going to bring you suffering, and there's no point in getting attached because everything is impermanent. Instead of blaming people and trying to look for reasons why, understand that things happen through cause and effect. I would say don't spend your whole time thinking about karma. Think about cause and effect, because in a way that is karma, and it's a much easier way and a better way of understanding, instead of getting involved in, you know, they were here for a reason or I'm here for a reason. Look at causes and conditions. It's a much simpler and easier way for you to understand that. Understanding the core teachings of Buddhism is going to stop you having wrong views. If you have wrong views, you're going to go down the wrong path. So we need to understand these foundation teachings of Buddhism. So many people I've seen here, so many, particularly in Tibetan Buddhism, so many people come in and they want to do all the glamorous stuff. They want to do all the tantric stuff, and you know, they get seduced by the monks with blowing horns and funny hats and all these things. And actually, they don't spend the time on the foundation. And you know, if you're going to build a house and you're not going to build a foundation, it's not going to stand up for very long. And the same with your Buddhist practice. If you don't have the strong foundation of understanding the foundation practices, the right view practices of Buddhism, your Buddhism is not going to last very long. Don't see the Four Noble Truths as something simple. I don't want to know that you can sit there and tell me, oh, there is suffering and there's a cause of suffering. No, it's not about that. It's about really living your life like that, really understanding and implementing the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. That's a lifetime's work. That's not something we can do overnight. But until we can do these things, till we really not just intellectually understand impermanence, but until we live our life like everything is impermanent, until we really understand cause and effect and stop blaming other people and seeing that we have a part to play, our actions have consequences, until we can understand all of these things, then we're never going to be able to go fully along the Buddhist path. Because these are key teachings that are going to keep you stable, keep you steady. When you go into levels of emptiness and things like that, that may shake you, you can come back down to the foundation teachings. If you have no foundation teachings, you're going to get to emptiness and you're going to think, then what's the point? If everything's empty, what is the point? Why am I bothering? We need foundation teachings. You need the right view. So spend an awful lot of time on those basic, what people say are basic, but they're really not. They're the key teachings of Buddhism. You need to not just understand them intellectually, because that is knowledge. That is secondhand. Somebody has given you that. They've told you, you've read it, you've listened to it. You need to change that knowledge into wisdom. And the way to do that is to meditate on these things during lockdown. So, friends, there is no true and lasting happiness in this materialistic world. So move to the firm ground of liberation. So true and lasting happiness is not going to be found outside of you ever. They're fleeting moments of happiness, and they're good. We need those fleeting moments of happiness, but they're not going to help you when you reach your deathbed. They're not going to help you move along your spiritual path. The only true and lasting happiness is found within, when we start reducing our suffering, when we start understanding the key teachings of Buddhism, when we start letting go of our concepts that we've kept for so long that are no use to us, when we start letting go of our biases, of our discrimination, when we start seeing people as human beings and not labeling them as, you know, people I like or dislike. When we can do that, then we'll find true and lasting happiness, but only then, and only inside, not outside of us. So meditate according to the advice of your spiritual guide and dry up the river of suffering. That's also quite good. Dry up the river of suffering. So, you know, like I said at the beginning, we need a spiritual teacher. You need somebody to guide you, and particularly in meditation. You know, meditation is put out there as a great thing, and it's a wonderful thing, but it isn't for everybody. And some people can go into the dark side of meditation, and you need a teacher if you're starting to go that way, because a fully trained teacher, and I'm not talking about these new mindfulness teachers that have become an expert overnight. I'm talking about real teachers who've done the practice, who can help you through your meditation. We're all different. We're all going to have different experiences. But if you have a good spiritual guide, a good teacher, then they will help you along the path. They will help you with your meditation. Don't try to do it on your own. So, any questions? Oh, we've come to the end. So I'll just do these and then you can ask lots of questions. So you should, okay, this is the end now. So you should consider this well, all of this teaching, because it's not just words from the mouth, but it's sincere advice from the heart. Not my heart. Well, it is my heart, but actually it's also Atisha's heart. If you practice like this, you will delight me, and you will bring happiness to yourself and others. So actually Atisha was saying that, but I'm also saying that if you follow these practices, if you try to make yourself a better person, the best possible person you can be, if you stop causing suffering to people and start helping people, if you're being kind and compassionate, then most definitely you will delight me, really. So we got there. And it's only 2 o'clock in the morning. Wow. So now ask your questions before I fall asleep. You're a very quiet lot today. What's happened? You're not used to Zoom, or?
Hi, Yeshe. I was just wondering if you could answer a question for me, please.
Yeah, I'll try.
So, I was really wondering about how do we know our spiritual guide is genuine, and if they're not genuine, what should we do about it?
Are you talking about me?
No, I don't think so.
I'm joking. So what you should do really is you should test your teacher, check your teacher. So first of all, look, what he's teaching, is he practicing? Because, you know, like I'm saying about here, about compassion, they all talk about it, but I don't see them doing it. So, you know, they're hollow words then. So see if your teacher is actually practicing what he preaches. And also, if you have a look at the disciples of this teacher, what are they doing? Because again, if they are doing what the teacher says, then this is probably a good teacher. So that's one way of actually, picking a good teacher. If you find that your teacher is not actually doing what he preaches, and his disciples, his students are all over the place, then find another teacher. It's okay. You're not committed. You see, this is what I don't like, this guru thing. I mean, over here, everybody treats me like a guru. I dislike it. It really is an awful experience all the time. But, when you put your teacher up there, that's when you're going to have problems, because you put him up there and then you find out, oh, he's a human and he makes mistakes. Then you lose faith in the teacher. So it's not about putting your teacher up high. It's about listening and trying to implement what the teacher is saying. That is respect for the teacher. That's what you should be doing. Not treating him like he's a god or he's a higher being. He's a human being. He's gone through different path than you've gone through. So he has more realizations. Okay, great. And we should be happy and respect that. But respect it by following him and doing the teachings, not by touching his feet or, treating him like he's a god, because that's not going to help him or you. And, you have so many people over here, they touch your feet. So many people touch your feet that you can start to think, oh yeah, I must be a really big person. So you're not helping the teacher and you're not helping yourself. So look at the teacher, see is he putting that into practice, what he's teaching me. If he is, then he's probably a good teacher.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think, Yeshe, we're very conscious of your time.
It's okay.
Unless you're planning to go out clubbing, you probably want to get to bed. So
I'm not really dressed for clubbing today.
Well, we don't know what you're wearing under that. So anyway, we'd like to thank you very much, and we hope we can return at some point, maybe at an earlier hour, maybe a weekend would be better or something like that, whereby you can do this as a more sensible hour than that. But very, very much appreciated. If there's anyone else wants to add anything, or there is another question, then please do so. We could presumably email anything over if there was anything that was thought about.
While I'm here, I'm still awake.
I would just like to say thank you. That's been a wonderful talk this evening. Thank you.
Me too, yes. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah,
Thank you.
There you are, Yeshe. I'll be in touch sometime tomorrow by email and something to raise with you. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Have a good sleep.
Thank you.
A great deal of merit.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Night.